Carolyn Tainch has watched as her suburb Zetland has grown up.
Well, I moved in here in 2003, so I've been here just over 20 years. Oh, it's changed enormously.
From shabby factories and rusty council depots to a gleaming new 21st century suburb.
Well, it's a small suburb, but there were a lot of original people that lived in the little cottages and things. Then all these units went up.
And it's expected to keep growing. Zetland and the surrounding suburbs will house up to 70,000 people by 2036. Sydney is battling to plan for a growing population.
Historically, one of the things we've not done a great job around is coordinating infrastructure investment and housing.
The evidence from all around the country is quite clear. Good quality public transport supports more dense housing. It's a symbiotic relationship.
Carolyn has a train station nearby, but she worries it won't cope with the booming population. It can already get crowded during peak hour. She's disappointed residents won't benefit from a new transport system under construction elsewhere in Sydney.
I just think it's poor planning. I mean, it's no foresight because there's so many people live here.
The Sydney Metro is promoted as Australia's biggest public infrastructure project. 113 kilometres of new rail serviced by driverless trains.
Today is the biggest day in the history of public transport in New South Wales because today we start a public transport revolution.
The first line opened in 2019. As the project rolls on, there's debate over where the metro should run.
Why not at a stop
Zetland? Well, the main reason for that is the cost.
And questions over how the agency building it is run.
They operate like the private sector, but they're a government agency with responsibility for the delivery of $65 billion worth of metro projects.
Sydney Metro has been reliant on expensive contract staff. Until last year, at least 3 held senior positions, including Paul Rogers and Barry McGrattan. Mr Rogers and Mr McGrattan also run consultancies. Their staff were hired into Sydney Metro on about $2,000 a day.
Acknowledging that these 2 individuals weren't involved in awarding those contracts to their own companies, are you comfortable that they weren't at least aware of inside information, given their roles within Metro, that might help their companies win contracts?
Look, I think I understand that question, I understand the concern around that. We've investigated this issue, and it is an issue that we also referred to ICAC because there's a very serious set of allegations that were made. There's been no evidence found to support that.
And is it the case that these people no longer work for Metro because of these allegations or issues?
So certainly we were concerned with the perception that created, but also for those individuals. Under those contracts that we have with the private sector, there is an ability to replace some of the individuals who are provided to provide services, and we agreed with both those parties that those 2 individuals who were named would be replaced by other people until those contracts were concluded.
It doesn't matter whether they had direct involvement with the contract, the whole thing stinks.
Mr Rogers and Mr McGrattan did not respond to our request for comment. In a statement, the Transport Minister, Joe Halen, said an independent legal advisor has been appointed to investigate whether allegations on the use of contractors have been appropriately addressed. She said 256 professional service contractors are working for Metro, a reduction from 467 in September.
Getting the organisational structure to grow at the same speed as the commitments that are made by government and the timeframes that are set is very challenging. I think there's lessons learnt, and it is something that all public sector organisations have to deal with. That the sort of quick way to get something done is not the right way to get it done in the long run, and so we've got to find a balance. And certainly we're really focused on that at the moment.
It's not just staff costs breaking the budget. Documents released to the State Parliament show other contracts increasing by as much as 8 times their original value, in part due to evolving requirements and a tight time frame.
We did have some significant increases in scope, the addition of stations, changes in improvement in the infrastructure. It was at peak construction during the COVID restrictions, and we had a lot of difficulty being able to even get on site. It is a big and complex project.
Infrastructure experts say cost blowouts are all but expected on multi-billion-dollar projects. But they say one thing could help: better coordination across the country.
We have these feasts of infrastructure where there is so many tunnels in Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane all going at the same time that the construction industry is making big bank, but then they're all supposed to finish over the next couple of years. If you're a company and you're in this business space, you're going to charge more during the 5 years that you have a job to cover the 10 years that you don't.
There's a role for perhaps Infrastructure Australia, the Department of Infrastructure, the federal government generally, to actually help coordinate a better planned program there, so that A, there's more certainty for the supply chain, but B, actually we can retain some of those specialist skills in the country that we need to deliver the projects.
Construction on the next Sydney Metro line is forecast to wrap up in 2032. Infrastructure believed vital for a growing population.
It's transformational in what it will do for people all over Sydney. It's a fast, automated railway that's providing access to new parts of Sydney and providing significant additional capacity right through the heart of the city.
And what I fear is that in the future governments are going to be very nervous about committing to really groundbreaking projects like this. The Metro is fantastic because of the expense. And what we don't know about the expense is how much is absolutely essential